This is Rebecca Lowe, or Rebecca Lua, if you listen to Suboptimal Radio, and you are listening to Men in Blazers on the NBC Sports Network.
It's unbelievable!
From the Embassy Road studios in the crap part of Soho, it's the Men in Blazers podcast, Rog.
It's our Hanukkah special.
It is our Hanukkah special, Rog. Also, everybody's getting in the holiday spirit.
Apart from me.
Okay, you know my favourite carol.
Andy Carroll. It's everybody's favourite carol.
No, I do. I like Andy Carroll a lot, but no. In the bleak midwinter, frosty wind made moan.
No, it's frosty wind made moan.
Earth stood hard as iron, water like a stone. We're in the bleak midwinter, Roger. It doesn't feel like it because it's almost 60 degrees outside in New York City in the crap part of Soho, but the days are getting shorter.
It's incredible.
You love it. Suits your mood.
Dark wing. No, it's too dark even for me.
No,
even for Rog.
that's not possible.
I've got to say, when I read the newspaper right now, David, dark wings, dark words, just the conflict, the ugly political rhetoric.
Yeah.
Just the climate nightmare that's now spiraling in China. Just the worst photo ever on the front page of the New York Times.
And the statements of Donald J. Trump.
And even the Oscar Pistorius famous man murder trial.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm picking up a paper that has been fake made for some dystopian Tom Cruise movie set, kind of like in 2022.
Yeah.
For me, Davo, football, it's typically a distraction. But this weekend, I couldn't get away, Davo, from just how bloody dark, literally dark, it is in England.
Yeah.
They had to put the floodlights on in the early lunchtime game. The referee made them put floodlights on at like 12:30 in England.
Nothing new there.
And the afternoon game, quote, afternoon game at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
They were able to, do you see the beginning of the game?
And that's down in London where it's much brighter than up north.
When the teams walked out, they turned all the floodlights off. And it was like an NBA game when the players work out in darkness. I'm worried for Arlo.
Really?
I'm going to send him one of those natural sunlight light bulbs.
Yeah.
God love it.
Arlo's so positive, though.
But then I read this, Davo. And this didn't surprise me. Big headlines in England.
Oh, yes. Londoners take the most miserable selfies in the world, Rog. A new study commissioned by Somerset House and Selfie City London. Is that a real organisation?
It's a reputable. I've got to tell you, if you want to keep up with
the selfie business,
breaking news in the selfie industry.
Selfie business, go to Selfie City London. They led a team of media researchers and data scientists to collect all public Instagram pictures during 1 week in September 2015. They looked at factors such as emotional expression and physical poses, as well as gender and age estimates, and discovered that compared to Bangkok, Berlin, Moscow, New York, and Sao Paulo, Brazil, Londoners have the least happy faces, the most upright poses, and are least prone to the classic head tilt duck pose. They are a serious, straight to the camera bunch.
When you can't even manage a head tilt duck pose in life, what is the point?
The study also found London men,
which you would have been, Davo, in a sliding doors other Davo lifetime.
Well, I was. I still am. Take the most miserable selfies for the longest amount of time. Expert put this down to rising property prices and highly competitive job markets. Dazed magazine came to another conclusion, determining the English are just mopey, down in the dumps, narcissists. That's amazing.
I've got to tell you, if you average, Davo, in September, the sheer volume of post-match happy selfies the entire Arsenal team took back in September.
Yeah.
It means there must have just been an avalanche of darkness captured, Davo.
Yeah, but they're not really London men, are they, either, the Arsenal players?
They're revelling in it.
Yeah.
Revelling in it,
Absolutely. Loving it.
Talking about darkness.
What, Rog?
Fargo Season 2.
Oh, yeah, I've got to watch it. I haven't watched it yet.
If you've not watched it, you're very lucky because you've not watched it.
And I don't have to watch Fargo Season 1.
No, just jump in. And I'll just say, those of you who are watching it, Hansi, Zan McClarnon, my favourite character on TV ever.
Huh.
He makes evil seem sympathetic, which actually gives me hope in life in general. And I just say, Hansi, you understand Chelsea better after watching your performance. Other darkness.
Because with everything going on in the world, Chelsea are the embodiment of true evil.
I can explain it to you, Davo, but spoiler alerts, I don't want to have to give them. MIB national team jerseys.
Yeah. They went on sale last week.
Friday.
Yeah.
Terrible day.
Not all of them.
By the way, terrible day to go on sale.
Not really.
Terrible. The worst.
Because we put 500 of them up there and...
they sold out in 240 seconds.
Too early, Rog.
We want to apologise that the tweed worms that we've nurtured to weave our jerseys.
Since birth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They take time. It's like weaving silk to weave polyester tweed.
Tweedworms.
Yeah. So we are breeding a new batch of jerseys.
Super tweed worm.
Yeah, December the 15th.
Yeah.
I believe, give or take, the next batch is going to come into our loving hands.
I really doubt producer Jen wants us to commit to a date when we're going to have the new
December
jerseys.
15th, I swear!
You're pointing into the outfield and saying December 15th.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll just say, I think this is what we'll do. We haven't discussed this, but we'll do a pre-sale for GFOPs. We'll send a note out via the Raven.
Ah, clever.
To let GFOPs, a lot of people were a bit annoyed that they couldn't get them when they've been listening to the show forever. So what we'll do, we'll give a heads up before they go on general sale via the Raven. So if you do want an MIB national team jersey, sign up for our newsletter, The Raven, which we produce with our partner Guinness. And we'll give you a secret Masonic handshake heads up before they go on general release.
Can I say something else, Rog? And if you don't like
Yes.
you don't like this idea, you can edit it out and pretend it never happened.
Oh, okay.
But I believe
Just cut it there, JW.
I
Just
believe
there.
heavily in the concept of our limited editions.
Yeah.
However, I do believe that in the case of the Men in Blazers national team jersey, that this is something that we should not bar entry. And if there ends up being more demand for the Men in Blazers national team jersey,
We'll come
than
up
the
with an
current
away
run,
kit.
yeah, we'll do
We'll come up with
something.
an away
We'll
kit.
make sure that there are enough national team jerseys for every plumber, every carpenter, every accountant, every financial advisor, every postman who wants a Men in Blazers national team jersey should be able to have one. That is my platform.
I'd like to do a
Rog.
pink jersey, a pink road jersey.
Yeah.
We haven't discussed that either,
No,
so
we
you
haven't.
edit that out if you
Yeah,
don't
we'll
like
leave it all
it.
in. Let's leave it all in. Okay, enough of jerseys, Rog. We have a packed show. We marvel at sexy Stokes 2-0 thrashing of league leaders Manchester City. We applaud you slightly louder than me, Rog. Lovable Bournemouth. They are lovable. Their Holly Holm-esque victory over defending champions Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. We're way less invincible than Ronda Rousey, though. And we revel in Leicester's re-emergence at the top of the table, Rog, after a win in Wales. Plus, MLS Cup heads to Portland, and Loretta Lynch continues to make the world a better place, one FIFA arrest at a time. To the football!
With the Guinness.
We are now, Rog, 15/38 of the way through the Premier League season. That does not reduce, unless you're my daughter JJ doing her math homework. She's doing fractions right now, having a few struggles.
To Timber Joey.
Yes, to Timber Joey, Rog. Like a Jackson Pollock painting, we have absolutely no idea what we're looking at, but we know we like it.
What a weekend, David.
Yeah.
What a weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, City, Chelsea, Liverpool lose. Manchester United fail to score. Okay, maybe that was predictable.
Well, so is Chelsea losing.
Leicester City back in our loving arms at the top of the table. At Tarek Gwalaska tweeted us to say, this Premier League season, it's the equivalent of Season 4 Game of Thrones, refusing to stick to any conventional theme of plotting.
Yeah.
And at Ryan Black, is this Premier League season being written by opium addict romantic era writers? Show me a Premier League season that hasn't been written by opium addict romantic. Maybe 1995. What a top 4 race we got, David. Teams group like a Tour de France pack in a peloton.
Yeah.
It's so rare to have so many teams well placed right before the holiday schedule breaks them like a pack of pool balls.
Yeah, it's kind of like you've got 12 or 13 teams in top 4 contention at this point going into the holidays.
And about
Rog.
17 in the relegation zone at the same time.
Exactly, I know. It's really bizarre.
It's all one big optical illusion. Do you see a old woman or do you see a beautiful young girl?
Yeah. It's all a bit MLS-y, actually, the standings, I would say.
You say that in a complimentary way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like the MLS regular season where all the teams are very bunched up together. No one running away with
Before
it.
we know it, the EPL will have an allocation draft.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Oh,
then
who's
they'll-
my DP going to be?
Well, no, we've made a big time.
Yeah, absolutely, Rog. Okay, let's go right in with Stoke 2, Manchester City 0. 1 week after losing 2-0 to Sunderland, Stoke batter first place Manchester City, who were coming off a 3-1 win against Southampton. 2 imperious pieces of play involving Swiss small Shaqiri, he's so cute, and Austrian tall Arnautovic, he's not cute, resulted in a pair of goals
He's a
inside
bit rough.
15 minutes and dropped City to 3rd in the table, Rog.
What a way to start the weekend. This
Yeah.
weekend, oh shocks.
Oh, my God.
If ever a game has reflected the bipolar nature of this season's Premier League, it's this one, David. Stoke that loss to bloody Sunderland last weekend, that was just a red herring. A MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Manchester City, the most schizophrenic team in football.
Statistically.
Yep, we showed that in the Raven this week. The nutty professor of the Premier League. 1 minute they're Buddy Love. The next they're full-on Sherman Klump.
Yeah.
So we're in this game, Dave, against one-time Manchester City coach Mark Hughes.
Yeah.
Welsh Jason Christ.
Yeah.
But he'd clearly done his homework. City have oft-struggled at the Britannia. Hughes must have spent hours watching Liverpool's destruction of Manchester City on tape. And he spotted their Achilles. Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, Fernando, Wilfred Boney. They've got no idea how to stop teams who know how to execute spin moves and do back heels. They've got no idea.
No, it's amazing. It really is amazing.
Dark
and it's not like they didn't get their pre-match tunnel talk from Joe Hart, Rog.
Oh, yep. Joe Hart was back.
Yeah.
With his motivational mots of brilliance. One of these days, Dave, I want to get him on the pod.
Mots of brilliance?
Yeah. He's just a genius.
Oh, his Mo. His bon mot.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
His mots.
His mozza.
His
Okay.
mots.
His bon mot. Wonderful.
mots.
Okay.
I want to get him on the pod.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on in his head, David.
Yeah.
Not in ours when we watch him, but
Yeah.
in his head.
Well, who are his inspirations in his pre-match tunnel talks? Who have been his great sort of tunnel, heroes?
I imagine-
Oratorial,
I imagine he watches
wizards.
a lot of Richard Simmons, not having asked him, and a bit of Susie Orman.
Yeah.
I'd imagine watching him. But the amazing thing is, nothing he says comes true. Raz does not make goals.
No, he doesn't.
Wilfred does not get on the ball.
Yeah.
And
David does not make some magic.
he doesn't.
Not since
God
he's
love
come
it.
back.
What I've noticed is, as Joe Hart turns round to scream motivational platitudes,
Yeah.
you can see players like poor Bakary Sanya
Yeah.
and Kevin.
Yeah.
They shrivel up at this point.
Desperate
and
that they're not gonna get mentioned.
Desperate not to make eye contact. Never mind be mentioned. They don't want to make eye contact. You've got the players on the other side just grinning.
Yeah.
Absolutely loving it. It's got
Yeah.
the opposite effect that it's meant to have. It fills them with confidence. Amera Roncanhero tweeted us, Joe Hart has become the Premier League equivalent of Al Pacino in centre
Hoo-ha! That's wonderful.
He says over the top, but completely amazing to watch. As I said on the show, I keep expecting Crazy Joe to pull a coin out of Raz's ear or just start to yank a chain of coloured handkerchiefs out of his own mouth. That would be peak Joe Hart. I would love it.
Pull a tablecloth off a table and leave everything on it.
It'd be amazing. I mean, in all seriousness, it was, as you looked in the tunnel, a depleted Manchester City team, you could say. David Silva, first league start in 2 months. Aguero out, Yaya Toure out, along with Company, Nasri and Zabaleta. City trying to lead the league, but the league they do lead in is the table of injuries, a staggering 36 already, which I think is the league's top. They've had a huge amount of soft tissue injuries. And so Mark Hughes, knowing they were without a core of that side, and they're a team, despite the breadth of their squad, who rely on their core more than any other right now. Mark Hughes flung a ludicrous attacking lineup on the field with his top three, Boyan, Arnautovic, Shaqiri, flung forward as a front trident, none of them a traditional striker, and as it turns out, Stoke wouldn't need one. They just set an enormous bear trap, the most gigormous bear trap for Pellegrini and City, and Mark Hughes dared them to come onto their team so his front three could exploit the inevitable space in the rear guard.
You know, one of the things we haven't spoken a lot about since the beginning of the season, it's because there have been a lot of other storylines. Jamie Vardy, obviously the implosion at Chelsea, Harry Kane getting back into scoring form. One of the storylines really affecting the Premier League and the peloton this season is these incredible star players on every team outside the top four or the traditional top four who can really hurt you. Watching Shaqiri, just the idea of Shaqiri, Basel, Bayern Munich, Inter Milan before he comes to Stoke, and what he can individually do to open up a team like Manchester City, it's shocking. We haven't seen players of that kind of individual brilliance on so many Premier League teams before.
Yeah, I mean, these goals, the Stoke goals, they were just breathtaking moments
quality.
of balletic predatorship.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, City left Stoke so much room to attack down the flanks, But wow, did Shaqiri take advantage of it? He's a 5'7" chunkster.
Yeah.
In his native Switzerland, they call him the Magic Dwarf.
Oh, he's got little hairy legs.
They can do that in Switzerland. We can't get away with that here.
Mm-hmm.
He's never had the consistency to live up to the potential that made Bayern swoop in for him and then move down a grade to Inter Milan. But in this game, first he accelerated down the flank.
Mm-hmm.
Then he just terrified the Manchester City backline. He took out 3 men.
Yeah. Take-ons, 3 men in a row.
Suranautić split the defenders.
Perfect ball, at speed. Arnautovic finishes. Great goal.
When
Great
man
goal.
buns attack, Davo.
Yeah.
When man buns attack. And then when City were rocked,
Yeah.
he just went and did it again.
Yeah.
Spinning off Fernando like
This
Kyle
goal even
Lowry.
better.
For me, this was goal of the season for
Yeah.
me. It was just so breathtaking to watch. 1 minute,
Yeah.
City have pressed Jeff Cameron with his back, not just a goal, but a foot away
Yeah.
from the sideline.
Yeah.
And
It
Jeff
would need
Cameron,
to be further to be out in MLS.
Jeff Cameron
Yeah.
knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the ball was at his feet. He knew and he told Shaqiri and he told him that he was the architect. I've got no doubt.
There's my goal. All me.
This may be an American bias, but I think
Yeah.
Jeff Cameron was at root
All
of
Cameron.
all that was good. Passed it to the spinning Shaqiri, who just delivered a perfect pass, which I must have watched about 47
Oh, the
times.
spin itself. He sent Fernando like at 100 miles an hour running the opposite direction.
But then calmly, almost blasé style,
Mm-hmm.
just computed angle, trajectory, wind speed, geometry to
Turf, stickiness.
to shred
Mm-hmm.
the City backline and play it to Arnautovic. 5 goals now in 14 games.
Mm-hmm. He
Pete Manban.
factored in man-bun resistance, Rog, against the wind. And
Jeff-
Arnautovic puts it away.
At Jeppy Turtle tweeted us, all this beautiful Stoke football is hard to watch. It will never work on a cold, windy day. City just couldn't get going, Davo. Sterling, De Bruyne, David Silva, they all seem like individuals. Poor Kevin, your man.
Yeah, Kevin.
He played like a gentleman who just does not like the wind.
Isn't that what Kevin De Bruyne means? If you go back to the original Anglo-Saxon.
And Boney just seemed like he was solely on the field to shrug his shoulders in frustration every 10 minutes. I mean, the truth is, Arnautovic could have scored 4 in that first half. He had a glancing header just wide. He hit the post with heart beaten, and the Stoke crowd chanting England's number 2 at poor Joe tauntingly for the rest of the game. How are City so shocking when you think about the amount of money that has been spent on squad building?
Well, I mean, look, I think we're starting to realise in all phases of the table right now, even on teams that are doing very well, like Man City and Man United, the limits of the amount of money that you spend on players and whether that has a true correlation in an individual match in the Premier League. We'll see how it lasts across a whole season, but an individual match in the Premier League, a much cheaper assembled teams can go and do them.
I mean, they are perpetually less than the sum of their parts, City. They have no cohesiveness up front. The back line is a shambles. Dean McKellis has become the Wayne Rooney of defending. And most starkly of all, Davo, the leadership is it's just most wholly absent. This is not theirs alone. Will it become a theme on today's pod? But the second half, it just contained the now wrote images of a sad-faced Vaughan Song Company looking on in quiet, powerless mortification from the stands. I've come to realise he's the only City player who really seems to care, David.
Yeah, and yet we could talk about Man City after a weekend in which they destroy someone, and it all looks so good. Front to back, every part of that team looks so good. But, as you said, statistically, they are just 2 different sides. They are Jekyll and Hyde.
I mean, to me, the biggest problem is not physical, the toll of the injuries. There's something in Manchester City's DNA right now that makes them incapable of learning lessons. They constantly repeat mistakes. The Liverpool mistakes made again against this Stoke team. And tactically, they were not set up to deflect against the clear threat that Stoke presented from the outset. And for that, I can only blame Pellegrini. But we've got to say, hats off to Stoke. They were simply magnificent. An amazing transformation. When you think of Stoke, what do you normally think of? A bellicose stadium, a bare pit in the arena. You think of physicality.
Yeah, absolutely. And this wasn't the nature of this victory at all. They are still a very physical team, but this was not the nature of this victory.
I mean, the Stoke was once the ceramic and pottery capital of the world, no longer. It's actually 5 towns in an area that has little to pull it together other than its football team. And for years, the people in the region have come into the Britannia to thrive off the physically intimidating, primitive form of football. To watch the fans watch this feast of nuanced flick and trick counter-attacking football. I mean, I wonder how they feel when they leave. It must be like suddenly being served raw scallops served in pearl-bottom shell at Le Bernardine after years of eating at Golden Corral's buffet, Dave.
Oh, don't knock Golden Corral. I love me a chocolate fountain. I love that chocolate fountain. It's honestly so exciting to me, still. Been in America a long time. I love that chocolate fountain at Golden Corral.
You'd make a very good Stoke City fan, Dave.
God, you know what? I might need a new team. I might need a new team, Rog. Okay, let's get this over and done with. And by the way, Chelsea fans pleading with me to find a silver lining. Let me just give you an alert. There will be no silver lining here. There isn't one. Chelsea 0, Bournemouth 1. One of the feel-good stories of the season for neutrals.
Chelsea's claps or Bournemouth's victory?
You're not a neutral, Rog. You wouldn't understand. Plucky Bournemouth march on Stamford Bridge and claim the biggest scalp in club history. Still behind an 82nd minute header from former Wilmington hammerhead Glenn Murray. We're going to sell the American story forever. The Cherries in 17th clamber out of the relegation zone on goal difference. Chelsea in 14th, just 2 points clear of the drop, Rog.
What a scintillating capitulation.
Ugh.
You know, you hear about, like last season, you hear that like Dortmund, they're near the relegation zone. Mm-hmm. And you kind of wonder, how on earth does that happen?
Yeah.
Like you can't even imagine how that could happen. It seems just like, it's like when you saw Lyle Lovett and Julia Roberts, you just be like, how?
Yeah.
Does that happen? But even watching Chelsea week in, week out, as they suddenly, defending champions, suddenly stumble drunk on the floor, floundering after a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
It's still impossible for me, Davo, to believe it's actually happened.
Yeah.
But they did. Defending champion Chelsea Football Club lost to a newly promoted side, not just any newly promoted side, tiny little, insert Rogers' boring documentary about Bournemouth.
It's a fantastic documentary.
Together anything is possible. Bournemouth, they lost to a newly promoted side for the first time since 2001. For the first time, essentially, in the Roman Abramovich Petro-Ruble era.
A team not stacked with foreign stars and decimated by injuries as well, Rog.
How?
I don't know. I support them. I can't tell you what's going on or how this is happening.
Well, let's walk.
I do have a slightly alternate view on this, which we'll get to at the end.
Well, let's walk through the points. First of all, to me, this was an interesting one, seeing it through my own POV. Two teams battling the curse of Rog. How will that go down?
Yeah.
I had no...
All weekend when I was hearing that Kai Kamara was injured, I was like, oh no, he got injured in the pre-game. The curse of Rog strikes again.
I felt so guilty.
Oh.
Honestly, I sent an email. Apologising for what I have wrought on MLS Cup. I feel guilty for it. I feel guilty for everything. Everything. These two teams, though, David, they couldn't be more different. Listen to this. Chelsea's starting 11.
Yeah.
$321 million.
Yeah, well spent.
Bournemouth, $2.5 million. The Chelsea subs, $111 million. And on one of those subs...
You talk about Diego Costa. I love your line about John Obi Mikel.
Well, yeah. Mourinho this week did two things. He did two things to Diego Costa. First of all, he made him wear a yellow bib. He must have listened to our pod and realised yellow bibs do not have the same comedy value as pink ones.
I'm not sure about that. I think yellow bibs are much funnier.
Think?
Yeah, in some ways.
I think like
Pink bib's too obvious. It's on the nose.
A yellow bib's a bit like surreal comedy.
Maybe.
Yeah, but pink
a bit
bib,
trigger happy.
Yeah, you know, pink bibs is just family humour. Everyone gets a
yeah, Benny Hill.
Secondly, Mourinho sat Diego Costa by Mikel, a man who knows his way around the bench.
I mean, he just sits on the bench week after week after week after week.
He spent half his life on that Chelsea bench,
yeah.
Mikel. That's his little home. It's his home. So Mikel showed Diego Costa how one does behave. Yeah. I've got to ask you, though, were you surprised that Costa was even in the squad? No, Mourinho's obsession with the perception of control. Because when I saw that he was on the bench, I thought it was a fascinating piece of decision-making. He neither eliminated him completely, nor did he show, it was no biggie to me.
Yeah, it was a funny decision. I thought pretty hard that Costa was going to be, based on Mourinho's own statements of how he treats players, that would have been seen as an act of great rebellion. I can't imagine if Loftus-Cheek had thrown his pink bib in the general direction of Mourinho. I can't imagine he would have been on the bench the following week.
Yeah. I mean, to me,
or even at Chelsea.
Or even still
alive.
On the mortal coil. I mean, I do find it fascinating. And I think to some degree it shows the sense of panic that's kind of besetting Mourinho. He's so starved for goals. He always had to hedge his punishment Because if Chelsea had not scored, as they didn't, but Costa had been banished from the squad, the tabloids would have immediately set this up as Mourinho versus Costa, and it would have become a just massive spiralling subplot that Mourinho then couldn't control. He kind of had to hedge his bet. I'm going to punish you. You're not going to play, but I need you in this story rather than outside. Otherwise, it's going to come and really, really turn. I mean, you hear that the sands of time are running out for Mourinho. It really could have finished him.
Yeah.
And I'll say Chelsea were fantastic for the first 3 minutes.
They're very good.
Fast start, Hazard went close, but Bournemouth. Can you believe? Bournemouth, beautiful Bournemouth, tiny, tiny Bournemouth, had a game broadcast on big NBC proper, Davo, in the United States.
I do think we got to be a little bit careful in this game. Believe me, we're going to spend a lot of time taking down Chelsea. But I think that it would be an insult to Bournemouth to take away from their achievement, to make this all about how crap Chelsea are. In fact, Bournemouth beat, I'm telling you as a Chelsea fan, Chelsea didn't play that differently than they've played in every other game this season. In some ways, every game this year, this calendar year, Bournemouth took them apart and they countered. They had a perfect game plan against them, which they executed to perfection.
Well, I mean, I adore Bournemouth. Einstein once said, insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And by that definition, this season, Bournemouth have been bonkers. They've tried to play bold attacking football, playing the ball out the back week after week, despite injuries, despite bad luck, despite the harsh reality of the Premier League, which means they've actually won very few points when we were in the relegation zone. But in this game, they forced Chelsea to cough up the ball. They created counter-punching chances.
So well.
Yeah, I mean, Josh King could have had 2 goals within the first 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. Harry Arter, what a symbol of this Bournemouth team. $6,000 from non-league Woking.
Yeah.
And he ran this game. And the amazing thing about his story, because I met him in August, Bournemouth's rise in status has matched his own. He could have signed for loads of League One clubs. He happens to sign for one which rose and rose and rose. And because context is everything, he became an appreciated, valued player and has become an Irish international. I asked him if he thought he'd be an Irish international if he'd signed for another League One club, and he laughed and said, no chance. We talked about Gwyneth Paltrow, we talked about sliding doors. He said, as Bournemouth ran through the leagues, I've become perceived as a better and better player, even though I'm the same kind of guy. Mm-hmm. And watching him better Chelsea's midfield, fascinating. And Cesc, David, still spiralling.
I mean, look, the way that those Bournemouth forwards and midfielders pressed Chelsea just don't like possessing the ball at the back. They cannot pass. Matic and Zuma particularly look so uncomfortable in possession when being pressed. And Fabregas, you're absolutely right, along with Matic in midfield, the loss of collective belief, form, skill, and intelligence in possession is quite shocking to watch.
His spray on tan is the only thing about him that is worse than his passing.
Yeah.
The Chelsea faithful scream, we want our Costa back. Mm-hmm. And it's not clear to me whether they're chanting in support of him or to goad him out of the poor form that's seen him net just 7 times since January. But on he came, as Hazard moved over to the flank. Chelsea started to batter Bournemouth back a little bit, Dave. They seemed mentally, physically tired. They lost the precision.
Yeah, they started the second half well. In fact, they had a very good second half in some
ways.
I
mean, Bournemouth started to display the ragged fraying of a relegation fighting outfit clinging on for a point.
And yet, the point of football and the way you win football games is by putting the ball in the back of the net, which Chelsea were unable to will themselves to do. And Bournemouth were able to will themselves to go and do the thing that you need to do to win football games at Stamford Bridge, at Fortress Stamford Bridge, a place where things like this never used to happen.
And this is the most shocking statistic for me of Chelsea's season. No Premier League side has conceded more goals in the last 15 minutes of games other than Chelsea. The level with Norwich, to be technically correct. But on came super sub, ball denier, Glenn Murray of the
Wilmington Hammerheads, Rog.
That glorious season still being talked about in North Carolina. 14 games, 3 glorious goals.
Yeah.
I think Glenn probably treasures each of those 3, but none quite as much as this one. 99 seconds after entering the field.
Yeah, Stanislas corner from somewhere near the corner quadrant, puts it into the area. Zuma and Courtois, who'd had a very good game up till then, make a terrific mess of it. The ball breaks. Steve Cook puts it beats Ivanovic to the ball, puts it back in, and Glenn Murray heads home. The simplest of goals, Rog.
Yeah, at Cuckoo Reject tweeted, "Goal, Glenn Murray, Jeremy Piven's long-lost English cousin," which I adore. At Thomas Lehman in the Bible, "Jesus says the least shall become first." I'm pretty sure the Premier League writers just copied that. Yeah, they were phoning it in a little bit this week, but this is Chelsea's 8th defeat. Manchester City, Palace, Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Liverpool, Stoke, and now Bournemouth, David. Bournemouth.
Home. The Premier League writers drew inspiration for this goal, I believe, from the goal that Burnley scored against them to tie the game last season at Stamford Bridge. At the point, that draw was an equally shocking result to the team who are about to become champions. Happened from a corner in almost the same location, the same circumstances, in front of the away fans. When you go to Chelsea, the worst place for people to score is from a corner from that side of the field in front of the fans. It is just heartbreaking.
Yeah, but compared to the Burnley tie, Davo, this was like watching King Alaric and the Visigoths at Rome.
Chelsea only had 10 men in that game. Matic was sent off.
Because this isn't just Bournemouth, Davo.
Yeah.
This is half of the first team depleted by injury. Relegation zone, no wins in 8, Bournemouth, Davo.
Yeah.
I mean,
a team of English players, Rog, on the whole.
I am thrilled for Eddie Howe. I had the pleasure of meeting him before the season kicked off. He is a remarkable bloke. He's as advertised and more. He's a humble genius. After the game, he said this was the biggest result in the club's history. And Bournemouth have had some massive fairy tale results in the past 6 years. Their great escape, staving off relegation from the lowest league into oblivion. They've had fantastic days when they've won against all odds, subsequent promotions. But Bournemouth fans delighted at the end, singing the praises of Eddie at Stamford Bridge. "We've got the special one, we've got the special one," they chanted. Eddie Howe looked at the cameras and said, "It doesn't relent for my side." Next up, we got Manchester United. The thing that shocks me about this Chelsea team, David, going back to leadership, is that when things go crap, no one steps up.
Yeah, we spoke about this yesterday.
They wilt. No leadership. No responsibility.
Yeah.
How and why?
Well, I think this brings me to sort of my slightly alternative view, which is, by the way, not a pro-Chelsea. This is actually the most worrying thing and probably the most depressing things for Chelsea fans, is that this is a team shorn of the leadership of Didier Drogba, Frank Lampard, John Terry, who is an aging John Terry, even when he's playing. It's just not the same John Terry as there before. You know, and think of other players. Think of Michael Essien. Think of going back to Makelele. This has been... Chelsea teams have had these leaders on the field who have just inspired them and got performances out of them again and again. By the way, Peter Cech as well. That is a massive loss, a huge difference going from Peter Cech down to Courtois in terms of his ability to sort of marshal the defense. The fact is, from my eyes as a Chelsea fan, and I could be completely and utterly wrong, but watching them week in, week out throughout their championship winning season, certainly calendar 2015 to now, the most worrying thing is that Chelsea aren't playing that differently. Tactically, they're not playing that differently. Skill-wise, it's not a massive difference to how they've been throughout 2015. What is phenomenally different is where Chelsea used to win matches, particularly at Stamford Bridge, is being mentally tougher in the big moments and through winning physical battles. This is a team that no longer wins the physical battle and no longer has the mental toughness to go and win that. I don't know how you turn that around. That's not about one player finding form. That's not about a tactical solution.
Top 6, Mourinho said after this defeat, slowly the boom is lowering. Note of optimism, David, that you wanted, sent in by one GFOP for you, at Rich Marcus. He sent in some Churchill for you, David. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue.
I favorited that. I love that. That helped me in a moment. Another, I've forgotten the name, but a brilliant writer, Chelsea blogger, wrote in, suggested a new Chelsea drinking game is that you start drinking early and you just keep on drinking until you don't know what's going on. I love that, the Chelsea drinking game. You know, look, the worrying thing for me about Chelsea is I look at the teams above them and below them in the table, and I'm not sure that I see a single team above them that Chelsea are as good as, except for maybe West Brom, who we beat this season. And below them, I think Swansea, the team 1 point below them, clearly a better team than them, have been at points this season. Yeah, Norwich, we got a 1-0 win against. Bournemouth, we just lost to. Newcastle, we couldn't beat during their worst run of form. Sunderland, who knows? Villa, we did beat. This is a team who are in a scrap.
You missed an adjective. This is a team that are in a
Well, relegation is a noun, but I'm starting to believe that Chelsea will be in and around this position for the rest of the
It's
season.
an adjective, a relegation scrap.
A relegation-y.
Yeah,
scrap.
relegation-y.
It's a relegation-y scrap.
It's
Yeah,
awesome, whatever it
absolutely.
is.
It's relegation-y, without a doubt.
It's beautiful.
I
That's what it is.
did start writing for this. Is that I was trying to think about. Okay, I was
That's
looking for a silver
that's its
lining.
form of speech. It's beautiful.
I get people writing, "I find the silver lining, Dave, over Chelsea. Just give us something. Give us something." I was trying to think. The only silver lining I could think was if we do drop down to the Championship, what will be the good things about being in the Championship? I only came up with a couple of things. One is me and producer JW have a reason to go out for a drink and go and watch Chelsea play against
take
Ipswich.
JW out, he's
That
awesome
would be really
company.
good. I'll come and watch Ipswich with you anyway,
Yeah,
JW.
you
It'd be
bastard.
great. We'll have a real legitimate football reason to go and do it. Secondly, I think you get into the FA Cup a little bit earlier, so there's more FA Cup rounds in the Championship. 3, my season tickets. I would imagine they'll get a little cheaper. Although knowing Chelsea, the season tickets will actually increase through some thing of being in the Championship. I couldn't think any other advantages, but let me know at Embassy Davies on Twitter if there are any other unforeseen advantages of playing in the Championship. Perhaps I get to go and watch a game at Charlton, which is within half a mile of my parents' house. That'd be nice. Okay, Rog, moving on. Newcastle 2, Liverpool 0. Another shock in a weekend of shock. Steve McLaren's side scores as many goals as they have in their last 5 league games combined to send the fervent and always fashion-forward Toon faithful into a frenzy. A Martin Skrtel own goal, it was a good one, and a clever Wijnaldum chip see Liverpool fall for just the second time in the Klopp era.
The day we realise even our gods have clay feet, Davo.
Wow.
I mean, Klopp's team arrived at Newcastle just smelling blood. Midweek, the 6-1 mauling of Southampton. I mean, just a feast of scintillating, fast-paced attacking play. And this is Newcastle, Davo, one of the most fragmented locker rooms in all the sports. Liverpool open with confidence, they open with poise, they sought to counter whenever Newcastle tried to drive forward. But from the outset, something just looked off. Christian Benteke. Oh, poor Christian Benteke. He is the worst fit I've seen since Phil Collins attempted to pioneer the style of wearing a tuxedo with a pair of white Reeboks at the Grammys in the 1980s. Klopp's game is all about movement and flexibility. Poor Benteke, he's got neither. That's not his game. His game is about getting on the end of crosses.
Yeah.
They have no width, Liverpool. They play it through the middle, and he just looked like Andy Carroll minus the
he
man
seems to
bun.
take the focus of all those wonderful attacking players on Liverpool. It's too much focus for them. They don't need that single point of focus. They want it to go scattershot everywhere.
And without Coutinho, Firmino played like the sound of one hand clapping. Those two strikers combined just didn't press
He needs
with the
a second
required
Brazilian.
energy. Yeah, I mean, everything whose name ends in O. And without them pressing with the required energy, they just exposed all those behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, Liverpool's performance could best be summed up. They look like a Brendan Rodgers tribute band.
It's actually the only thing that made Chelsea's loss this weekend bearable was the fact that so many other teams lost. And so all the Liverpool fans who were just trolling me on Saturday, at least I didn't troll them back, but at least I got to just see your own reaction on Twitter, John Green, on Sunday.
Wijnaldum took the game over. He's now been involved in, this is amazing, 56% of Newcastle's Premier League goals, 9 out of 16 of them. The game had the joint fewest number of total shots on target in a Premier League game, 2. And Newcastle didn't need one of them to open the scoring.
Got a lot of help from Martin Skrtel. This would have been a shot off target, which we'll get to later, because I've had a new revelation about the shots on target and shots off target. This would have been a shot off target, and yet it results in a fantastic finish. Skrtel, we've seen him finishing from everywhere this season. This was nicely placed.
7th career own goal
Yep.
for Martin Skrtel. And as soon as it flew in, St James's Park, it just turned in to the cauldron of old. There's no place like it.
Yeah.
When that stadium starts to get behind the team
Yeah.
and the camera just spans the crowd, humanoids of all shapes and sizes, some clothed, some not. That fan base just long-suffering, always dreaming. It's one of the most beautiful Star Wars cantinas in world football.
Yeah. Can we also say about Wijnaldum, they're making this point about great players. He has 7 goals in the Premier League this season. He's tied with Aguero. Without Wijnaldum, where would Newcastle be? But also with him, they are capable of beating pretty much anybody.
Yep. And when they did, though Liverpool, they had a Moreno wonder goal wrongly, cruelly disallowed
Yeah.
for offside. Fascinating. Klopp, many managers, all managers really, they would have made that their talking point.
Yeah.
But Jurgen Klopp refused. He told the press, he said everything went wrong. The start, the middle, the end. And then he said, we scored a goal, but the linesman thought that because we were not good today, there's no way we can score a world-class goal.
Yeah, he did also say the assistant referee will not like watching that, so he did bring it up. But he was a real gentleman. I thought that hug for Steve McLaren was a really beautiful moment.
As the seconds of the clock ticked down, knowing the win for Newcastle would probably save McLaren's job, he wandered into his technical area on a day that, I'll say, not too many hugs were given out by the giant Teutonic Care Bear, and he just embraced poor Steve McLaren, who hasn't looked that happy. It's one of my I don't have a large bucket list, but to get a Jurgen Klopp hug, David.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Just to get
what kind of a hug?
I'd like to be have
Giving it bifters.
I'd like to have my head crushed against his bosom. It's not too much to ask.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what was odd. At the end of the game, Newcastle fans just chanting Steve McLaren over and over again after brutally ripping him apart for the past 8 weeks. Newcastle moved to within one win of Chelsea but remain in the relegation zone. At Michael Sim 26, I much prefer the hope of Sturridge returning compared to actually having him on the pitch. Hashtag sadnaps. Got to ask you, which is the real Liverpool, David? The magical, free-flowing, confident side that trumped Chelsea, or the heavy-footed thumpers who just pipped the floundering Swansea and then fell here? I remain optimistic. But what do you think?
I just think, look, you and I have been watching the Premier League for a very long time, and English league football even longer. That Gegen-pressing, high press, huge movement all around the place style over a 38-game Premier League season in all points of England with all of those teams who just play and compete so hard. It's very, very different to do that week after week after week after week in the Premier League. You might be able to do it in a cup competition. You might be able to do it even potentially in the Champions League. But in the English Premier League, most of the champions in the English Premier League are built on, they might have amazing skill players. Obviously, the Invincibles at Arsenal, we saw some amazing United teams go and win the Premier League. But they always have this incredibly strong spine. What Liverpool lack, which you see in most champion teams, is that spine running down the middle to go and give them permission to go and play in that way.
I mean, Klopp desperately needs Coutinho back. And one of the things I find fascinating, how many Liverpool players he's breathed life into and how that's quietened criticism of Liverpool's transfer committee, much maligned. He's going to need that transfer committee to pull in at least one quicker midfielder than Joe Allen and another mobile striker for when Sturridge inevitably breaks down. Then everything, Davo, everything could be possible.
Okay, Swansea 0, Leicester 3. Let's talk about the team at the top of the table. Some nuanced narrative from the scriptwriters in this one as they move Leicester back to the top of the table, halt Jamie Vardy's 11-game scoring streak in the process, and strengthen Riyad Mahrez's case for Best Supporting Actor all in one game. The Algerian's hat-trick brings his tally for the season to 10. Only Vardy and Romelu Lukaku, Rog, have scored more.
I mean, amazing game. Leicester had never scored at Swansea, never mind one. But that was old Leicester. Charles Atlas, when he was having the sand kicked into his face by the bullies on the beach. I mean, here, they were buccaneering, they were ruthless, they were overpowering marauders. And it was, on this day, all about Riyad Mahrez, that hat-trick. I mean, we are fascinated by youth development in the US. And you have to, when you think about Mahrez's story, a slender kid, tiny, reed thin. I mean, he wouldn't have been given the chance to develop his incredible foot skills if he grew up in the United States. He said, when I was young, I was skinny and small. I wouldn't go into duels. The coaches told me I had to learn how to play without contact. I had to become clever because I wasn't strong enough. He's exactly the kind of player we don't breed enough of in America at the youth level, from under nines upwards, where we pressure and we expect the kids to actually win games, a legacy of pay to play. So we just throw the bigger kids on all the time to try and get the goals we need. But those 3 goals, Dave, it's amazing. It means Leicester City have now scored more than any other team.
It's that buccaneering, the speed of their play, Rog. It's almost like, sometimes I think eyes are deceiving me. We watched the Jamie Vardy scoring run yesterday. We played it with Rule Britannia in the background. Those goals all the result of massive speed and just the ball lashed again and again and again into the net.
Yeah, Swansea had 61% of possession in this game. Leicester just do not need it.
That's their whole season, though. There's something like, I was looking at the possession statistics for the season. They're winning with something like 41, 42% possession for the season, Rog, and they're top of the table.
Only sad note, if you could say that, this was the day on which Vardy's scoring streak came to an end. He actually had 3 relatively clear-cut chances. The first half, he broke through on goal, one-on-one. And while he was doing it, the commentators started to talk about
to celebrate
the historic nature of the goal. As he said, I mean, Vardy hadn't even really set off over the halfway line. The commentator was like a resigned defender walking back to restart before Stefan Curry had even taken a 3-point shot. It was almost inevitable that Vardy would score, but he missed. And it was startling on the eye. All mine, all effing mine. It wasn't just Mahrez that was great in this game. N'Golo Kante, French Malian. Fascinating bloke. $8 million from Cannes. Came to football late. He was playing in the French lower leagues until the age of 20. Almost like a French Jamie Vardy. He's been so dominant so quickly, his teammates have given him the nickname The Rash. And here he played with a kind of verve, drive and unselfishness. He's the kind of player Manchester United so badly need. Yeah,
he and Vardy and Mahrez combine so well with each other. It's interesting you mention that in the Man United thing, because, when Man United had their sort of last period of real offensive fluidity with playing those 3 up front, it is similar, that sort of 3-man up front, to old vintage Man United without the possession.
Old vintage Swansea seem long gone. By the end, the players seem to have given up the fight. An announcement on Gary Monk, who has, we've got to say, credit the Swansea board, been given plenty of time to breathe life into his team, is expected imminently top of the rumour list as his replacement. And this would be the greatest Christmas present football-loving Americans could ever receive.
The Brodge.
Mr. Brendan Rodgers.
Going back to whence he came from.
I've rarely wanted a rumour to be so true, David.
Oh, my God.
I mean, going back to Leicester for a second, what impresses me is just how relaxed they seem in the spotlight. I mean, they even went all day drinking for what the Independent newspaper termed a, quote,
team bonding.
Sunday session. I love that. Sunday sesh. The whole team descended on Copenhagen dressed in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle outfits. And I think the lack of pressure comes from Ranieri. Afterwards, he said, "Are you thinking about winning the league?" He said, "We're thinking about ourselves." This is literally what he said. We are thinking about ourselves and to take point. Make good football take point. Our first goal is to take 40 points and be saved from relegation.
Yeah, he still thinks he's coaching Chelsea. I have no idea who he thinks he's coaching.
What a time to be alive, to watch the street, the team play, the never say die, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle outfits. At Gary Jackson tweeted us to say, Leicester, the Donald Trump of the Premier League. We keep waiting for an implosion that may never come. We'll see about both Donald Trump and Leicester. Their next 11 league games include 2 against Man City, 2 against Liverpool, as well as Chelsea, and road games at Spurs, Everton and Arsenal.
Respect to Ranieri as well. I know a lot of people think that, really this team, all of this success comes from Nigel Pearson. We joke about him not being aware of doing it. But I don't think it's any coincidence that the last time Chelsea played fluid, attractive, entertaining football, didn't necessarily get them into the top 4, was under Ranieri. He does inspire this kind of freedom, this kind of carefree, football-loving football amongst his players.
Last week we talked about whom we'd cast in a Jamie Vardy movie.
Yeah.
This week, the makers of the Goal movie franchise, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
They
franchise.
announced they're shopping a Vardy biopic.
Wow.
In LA. The producer, Adrian Bouchard, we need to get him on the pod.
Yeah. I can't believe he hasn't made a call to Embassy Row.
He says he's approached, listen to this, for Vardy.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield.
Yeah.
And Zac Efron. Please make it Zac Efron.
Yeah.
He says they've all potential. He's probably not seen Jamie Vardy. He's very bad eyesight.
Get banged.
Great tweet from GFOP Russ Horton. Wore my Leicester Vardy kit around Wisconsin and got 2 questions. Number 1, you like soccer?
Yeah.
And number 2, is that a Chelsea jersey?
Yeah.
# progress.
Yeah, very, very good. Talking of progress, Arsenal 3, Sunderland 1. Roger, a prosaic performance gives Arsene Wenger's men their first win in 4 games. Goals from Joel Campbell, Olivier Giroud and Aaron Ramsey. move Arsenal into second. After a brief respite, Big Sam Sunderland slips back into the relegation zone. However, they played pretty well in this game, Rog.
Poor Wenger, all of these injuries depleted. The Groundhog Day experience where he's wandering into a holiday period. The games are coming thick and fast. He can't rotate his squad. It's thin. And the more they play, the more they risk the chance of more injuries. I did speak to my Arsenal friend, Michael Cohen, the eternal optimist. His latest spin is, we're going to win the league.
Okay. He actually emailed me this the other day.
He said the injuries are a good thing because Alexis will be back fresh and ready to go at the business end of the season. I love his logic.
Is amazing.
He's clearly not concerned about the fact that Arsenal now have to rely on their British core, Ramsey, Walcott, Gibbs, Ox, and Callum Chambers, though they did deliver. Got to say, Sam Allardyce, fantastic. They went 1-0 down, Sunderland.
Yeah.
But he just is a master of overseeing club culture, transforming culture, and making sure that Sunderland, who would have wilted as soon as they went down, didn't. They responded, forced the goal through a Giroud own goal off his meaty French foreknee. And it took Arsenal managing to up the tempo to really see off Sunderland.
Terrible jerseys, Rog. Just tough to watch a team play in that colour, that green. But I just love the way Sam Allardyce sets up his teams. I just love his level of experience. He almost like arrives at work, you feel, and can't even quite remember who he's managing. He just knows he's been in this situation 1,000 times before and knows exactly which levers to pull, which to push. And I think that level of experience in the Premier League is going to be invaluable for Sunderland.
I've got to say, Joel Campbell's goal celebration is just a mind-boggler. He pulls out a dummy, a pacifier, out of his shorts that he's had sweating away in his down belows for 36 minutes. Makes me wonder what else he's got down there. Yeah. Like a flashlight.
I hope that's
half-eaten salami sandwich.
I hope the pass is going nowhere near his baby after being down there as well.
I want to know where he pulls it from, David. By the way, Wenger is just becoming an open book.
Yeah.
My new favourite tidbit this week, his revelation to Le Parisien, that he's a huge
Bob Marley fan, Rog.
Yeah, I listen to reggae before every game. Bob Marley was not fabricated, he was real. This is as astounding to me, Davo, as finding out that Wenger's favourite author is Tom Robbins.
Yeah.
He says, there's a lot about my personality people don't know about. With my job, I love this line, I'm often stressed, so I might appear a bit like a constipated person.
Do you believe he smokes? Do you think he smokes the ganja, Rog?
Do I think he smokes the ganja?
Yeah.
I think he probably vapes. I bet it's a stressful job, mate.
Eats brownies.
You know what he said?
Yeah.
He said, I like to laugh when I'm with my friends. I have a humorous side that reigns free.
Yeah.
I can't do it in front of the media.
Yeah.
It's a lot of a manager, David. Bob Bradley once told me, I asked him, what's the thing that no one would know about you? He said, I have an unbelievable sense of humour, but I never show it in public. A bit like Dane Cook.
That sounds like an astrology forecast. You have an unbelievable sense of humour, but nobody really appreciates it.
How much do we know about any of these people, David?
Very, very little, but doesn't stop us from making it all up, Rog.
It's like, next we're going to find out that Arsene Wenger's favourite actress is Reese Witherspoon.
No, it's Julie Delpy. It's got to be Julie. It's got to be Delpy. You know it's Delpy, Rog. Okay, United 0, West Ham 0. A display of offensive ineptitude. I'd take offensive ineptitude at this point, during which only 3 of a combined 30 shots were on goal.
No Rooney.
Yeah.
This time, really no Rooney.
Yeah.
So he wasn't just missed theoretically, out with an ankle injury, but United didn't need him, Davo. They showed they could score no goals quite well without him. Let's get into your stat, though. Come on, talk to us about your new... Davo does stats.
30 shots on goal. Adrian Durham wrote about this also, but I found myself thinking about this. I've been thinking about it all season. We become obsessed with shots on goal and shots. Shots on goal isn't necessarily a great statistic. A shot on goal directly at the keeper is not a good shot on goal. Sometimes a shot not on goal is better than a shot on goal.
Your point is, if I run forward, curl the ball from distance, and it just curls around the post, to you, that's better than if I run forward, miss-hit my shot, and it's a slow, wobbly kind of little runner.
Or right at the keeper.
Yeah, right down the gullet to the keeper.
The point is to avoid the keeper and put it in the corners on the hole. And if you're going to put it in the corners, you tend to sometimes miss the goal.
So we've often talked about when we are Premier League managers, which we're hoping will be given our nod. When some more Americans take over teams and everyone gets a chance to be a manager, you're essentially going to run drills with your players. Where you teach them how to shoot off target.
Rather have a close
Come on,
miss.
lads.
I'd rather have a close miss than something solidly down the centre into the keeper. And secondly, we blame managers. There are a combined 30 shots.
Yeah.
And only 3 of them are on goal. And we often blame the managers for this. Surely this is a player's responsibility.
But it is the manager's fault because they're not training them in having more shots just off target.
Yeah, exactly. That's a new statistic I think we're going to pioneer is shots just off target. That's a very telling stat. Let's call NBC research for the shots just off target.
Let's work on that one.
Yeah.
And
also, I'd also like...
Opta, we need to differentiate between good shots on target
and crap shots on target.
Yeah, we need more. We needed to go deeper.
Yeah. Too many crap shots on target.
Call Nate Silver. He'll blow your mind. But anyway, it didn't matter. United weren't going to score in this one. No Memphis from the outset. Fellaini started and the Belgian did what he does. Snarling beanpole of crude good and evil. But when it mattered in front of goal, he did his best Wayne Rooney impression. Poor Martial, David. Mm-hmm. The clock is ticking. He has not hit the net in the league since September the 20th. And JW watched this game and he said what was interesting about watching United was it was Lingard and Martial screaming at the veteran pros all the way through the game.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
He said it was like watching Lord of the Flies. But it was West Ham that created the best chances. West Ham managed to hit the bar twice at Elliott Mark 33. This Manchester United team are dropping more points than Steph Curry in a Church League game. I am severely disappointed. Frustration, you're not alone, Elliott Mark. Frustration building around Old Trafford. The joy has been knocked out of United's brand of football, David. Quarter of their games this season have been 0-0 draws, 6 out of 24, 4 of them coming at their own ground in the past month. Yet they're still challenging for the title.
Because the way that you tend to win the Premier League is the teams who are the best defensive teams in the Premier League tend to do very, very well. And defensively, they are still very, very solid, Rog.
At Sports with John, the great John Green summed up this performance. He said, LVG's United believe football is like life, a dull, grueling journey that's endless while you're in it and then meaningless in retrospect.
Can we also mention Schweinsteiger, that elbow to the neck of Winston Reid? You know, we call that a lot of players. Schweinsteiger, obviously a very, very nice guy, but it's going to be retroactive punishment against Schweinsteiger for that move. That could have changed the game had the refs seen that, without a doubt. West Brom 1, Tottenham 1. Goals from Spurs, Dele Alli, fantastic goal, and the Baggies, James McLean, also a fantastic goal. Cancel each other out at the Hawthorns in stats that can only be explained as Spursy. Tottenham extend the league's longest unbeaten streak to 14, while still slipping to 3 points off the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, the unbeaten streak continues, but only just. The undefeated run, it's beginning to mask a huge number of draws that a top 14 just doesn't make. Stoke, Chelsea, Swansea, and now West Brom. Yeah.
Fantastic goal from Dele Alli.
Who reminds you of?
He reminds me a little bit of Lampard in that he's a late arriver in the box. It's how Lampard used to get a lot of goals. The ball from Alderweireld was also amazing to him for that
but
finish.
That James McLean goal, that was like old school goal of the season. That's how great goals were all scored when I was a kid.
Yeah, very true. It was vintage. Southampton 1, Villa 1 after a 44th minute Jolyon Lescott goal. A 73rd minute Oriol Romeu equaliser dashes the villains' delusion of grandeur. Villa earn a woeful 6th point, and Remy Gard looking ever more like someone asked to captain the Titanic just before it hit the iceberg. Watford 2, Norwich 0. A lot of yellow in this one, Rog. Goals from Odion Ighalo and Troy Deeney. Watford's answer to Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez sink the lowly Canaries at Vicarage Road. I didn't like the green and the yellow.
It was like a Bundesliga game. Yeah, I thought Dortmund were playing Bremen when I tuned in.
I know, it was difficult. Green tops, yellow shorts. What next? Watford's 6 victories this season equal their previous best for an entire season and leave them in the top half of the table.
Ighalo.
Oh.
He turned down a sizable chunk of cash to play for your favourites, Hebei China Fortune.
Oh, I love them.
In the Chinese league. He preferred to battle relegation at Watford and it's picked 9 league goals, 8 in his last 11 games. If it weren't for Jamie Vardy, the Nigerian would be the player the Premier League was all talking about in a season in which your Rooneys, your Costas have failed to find the net.
Very, very true. He looks good with it. He ripped his shirt off down to his Under Armour. Roger's yellow Under Armour.
His little nipples, ding, ding.
He's got a Sanchez-style body.
It's like a come-and-get-me Arsenal play.
Everton won. Palace won. Just 5 minutes after Scott Dan gave Palace a 76th-minute lead. Romelu Lukaku, Rog, scored his 11th goal of the season. Yes, Chelsea would like him back. And rescues a point for Roberto Martinez's men at Goodison. Palace up to 6th. Everton in 9th. Rog, I was following the game on Twitter. We were working on our TV show. I couldn't reveal to you what was going on because you had it recorded at home. You watched it. I didn't. Talk us through it.
Oh, it's fantastic. Two of the most optimistic, free-running teams colliding. Fast-paced, lack of dark arts or snide physicality. Just magnificent battles up and down the field. Barkley, Deulofeu pitted against the seductive Cabaye and the powerful Balassi. Fantastic battle. Tom Cleverley, shockingly pivotal, Davo. Everton dominated. They hit the bar 3 times of vigour and application without really being able to cut Dan and Delaney apart. The huge amount of the ball in the final third without having really the composure to make that superiority count. Palace are just a fantastic, perfect away team. They make forays on the break. They know they can forage from a set piece. And it was the latter which paid dividends. Scott Dan thumped the ball past Tim Howard. Everton are so poor. Over and over again, letting in set pieces from in and around the 6-yard box, which we can never defend. And in past seasons, David, that would be it. The wind would have gone out of Goodison Park. But this Everton team kept sliding passes.
Yeah, mentally tough.
Till Jerry D sprung free, his hair flopping around like an Afghan hound puppy, slapped in the ball for Romelu. Beautiful Romelu, who did the biz from close range. 100th appearance for Everton. 50th goal.
Amazing.
Scored 5 games in a row. Vardy-esque.
Yeah.
Evidence, if you need it, Davo, that young talent needs the opportunity to play regular games, to flourish. Although at the final whistle, the whistle went, Davo. Lukaku looked like he was going to burst into tears of frustration.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Everton have lost twice, 3-2, I think, to Palace at home last 2 seasons. But he said afterwards, if we want to be top 4, we need to win games like that today. And I'm beginning to worry, Davo, that Lukaku's days at Everton may be numbered. I'm starting to dream those dreams where I battle Lukaku over dinner like I did with Fellaini. He and I are having dinner. I'm begging him to stay, David.
Great player. We sometimes forget how young these players are. Today is Raheem Sterling's birthday. He's 21. Jordan Ibe, his birthday too. He's 20 years old, Rod. These are such young guys.
Lukaku is 22.
Yeah.
Roberto Martinez said he's a man who can, I love this quote, he can control the moment. I'm afraid his ability to score right now is too much for the big clubs to resist.
Yeah. I mean, look, Rog, Everton sit in 9th. They're on 22 points. They're right in that peloton. But I think more importantly, you're right, they're showing the mental toughness to get back into games. You could look at these last 2 games, the game against Bournemouth, the game against Palace, as 4 huge points dropped. But I think Everton are right in there, Rog. I honestly think that they're good enough. They've got everything. I think you're a little bit more critical of Tim Howard than I am. But their defence, their midfield, their up front, they have every element. They've got strength, they've got the spine in the middle, they've got the flanks. Leighton Baines, your boy, came back yesterday. Looked magnificent.
He doesn't look magnificent. He played magnificent.
No, as a player.
He looked like he's gone to
hair.
Joe Allen's barber.
Oh, nothing wrong with that.
He looked like a substitute drama teacher that gets a bit too friendly with the kids.
Oh, I wish I had that much hair.
We'll talk a little bit more about Everton in the Ravens.
Okay, good, Rog. MLS Cup. Columbus Crew 1, Portland Timbers 2, Rog, the curse of Rog. The Timbers deliver the football-mad Rose City its first ever MLS Cup. It's also the first MLS Cup to the Pacific Northwest, Rog. Caleb Porter's side took the lead just 27 seconds in when Diego Valeri caught Crew goalkeeper Steve Clark doing his best Simon Mignolet impression. Rodney Wallace doubled the lead just 6 minutes later with a diving header after the ball was so far out of bounds. GFOP Kai Kamara pulled one back for the Crew, but in the end, the trophy heads to Portland. Deserved victory.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, cup finals are often nervy, grinding affairs, in truth, Davo. This was an exceptionally nervy affair. I mean, it was rife with blooper reel mistakes by players and match officials alike. And the result was a wonder, as Portland, though derided by many in MLS circles, they do carry with them an amazing football club culture. But I felt for the league, Davo. They so desperately craved a showcase game. And this final wasn't it. It was like that old Jewish tailor joke. Never mind the quality of the fabric, just feel the width. And having said that, it was impossible to take your eyes off the action. It was just like watching the goalkeeping. It was just like watching Brad Guzan's entire season in fast motion film.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure. I mean, the ratings just came in. I haven't had a chance to do a deep dive, Rog. It did a 0.3. I think that MLS will be very disappointed in that number. But I'm not convinced on a Sunday night opposite the NFL in early December whether any two MLS franchises would have delivered a bigger number.
Oh, but yeah, playing the final up against the NFL, it's one of the most self-sabotaging acts in sports, David. I mean, and then you watch video of the Portland Timbers return home at the airport and be met by hundreds of supporters, and you realise how deeply embedded a soccer team's rooted in the core fabric of the city. And then you realise it also in its first 20 years, MLS has built such strong foundations at the local level around many of its clubs. And the next phase is going to be to find a sporting window that MLS can own during the week, where it can begin to weave those local followings together and just make a narrative of national concern. Because this wasn't it. It was a fantastically dramatic game, including just incoming beer cans being flung.
Oh, I support that.
I think inferior light beers.
Yeah.
When the winning goal was scored, I can't stand it when the ball goes out. Even when I watch my son play under six football and the volunteer referee waves play on when the ball has clearly gone out of bounds, that infuriates me. For 5-year-olds, Davo, I've never seen it for professional players. Crew fans will feel stung by that non-throw-in, but Portland could also have had a penalty for Michael Parkhurst's handball. And I think everyone will admit deep down that Portland were the better team on that. I thought Jorge Villafana was terrific. He better polish up his German because Jurgen should be calling. But my favourite moment of the game, Davo, came when Don Garber presented your world champions, Portland Timbers, with the trophy.
Yeah, I'm looking at Don for a talk show, Rog.
You are.
Yeah, could do it. He's got the skills.
He said there's a lot of television, Davo.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a sports league where the commissioner does more television.
Yeah.
The NBA sends its players and its coaches. Surely the league will only mature when we get the MLS guys out. He does a lot of television.
Andy Cohen was an executive at Bravo before he had a talk show. Davo, an executive at Embassy Row before. I'm telling you, Garber is ready. Talking Garber. It's a good show.
On Bravo.
Yeah, Talking Don.
If you didn't see it, it was an amazing moment. He was trying to be nice to the Columbus fans, and he gave respect to the fans whose team had just lost. And then the game broadcast cut to a girl who looked a little bit like Aubrey Plaza, and she just slowly gave the camera the finger. Turns out she's a GFOP at Savannah B. And I asked her, because I've always wondered, when they do college football and they focus in on a sad fan or whatever, what was going through your head at that time? And she said, I was annoyed at the officiating. I was watching Don Garber give a trophy to a team that wasn't mine. And then Garber says some bullcrap half-assed, thank you to the Nordecker. That's the Columbus home fans. And all I could think of was, you, dude. And then I knew the cameras wanted to broadcast my heartache, and I wasn't about to be that, quote, sad opposing team fan, so I just instantly flipped off the screen. So there's definitely weird seeing myself on the internet. I was just being myself. I'm still pissed. I'm still safe. Don Garber. Go Crew. I remain very proud of my team and how far they've come.
Oh, Savannah B. I think it's been an amazing season of progress in MLS. I think that is the primary evidence right there. Amazing playoffs, amazing MLS Cup. Congratulations to everybody at MLS and both teams, Rog. Well played, both teams.
MLS announced David Beckham's Miami finally looks to have found land for us. David Beckham's homeless no more.
The Fusion are back.
Coming back. And they also announced it's going to grow to encompass 28 teams, David.
Yeah.
Though no time frame. And
that's a lot of teams.
It's a lot of teams. I can't wonder whether they're all going to be in one league.
Yeah.
Or whether they'll have some kind of division system, maybe League One and
like
League
NFC,
Two.
AFC.
Maybe they will have promotion and relegation within MLS, David. And just block out NASL and USL forever, David.
Okay, Rog, the US women's national team, we've got to address this. The US women's national team players and coaches cancelled the latest leg of their victory tour in Hawaii because of subpar field conditions. The World Cup champions were scheduled to take on Trinidad and Tobago Sunday at Honolulu's Aloha Stadium. But when the team turned up for training the day before the match, they found sharp rocks ingrained all over the field, I think especially near the technical areas as well, and low-grade aging turf that could actually be pulled off the ground. They cancelled the game, Rog.
I mean, it's just dark. I mean, first of all, get better, Megan Rapinoe, who tore her ACL playing on a subpar training facility, preparing for this game. She's going to be out for at least 6 months and could probably miss the Olympics. 100% Megan fashion. She sent out a positive message, Davo. I want everyone to know I'll be fine. I'm accepting any recommendations for TV shows to binge watch. Great restaurants that deliver in Seattle. I'm also going to get really good at FIFA 16. We should organise an online Megan FIFA tournament.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Down the road. But there's such a darkness to that injury, David. The team took just the unbelievably unprecedented step of issuing an open letter talking about how awful the playing surface was. It hadn't been replaced in years, and demanding equal respect as the men's team. I mean, these guys, they should be allowed to play on bloody grass, for God's sake. They are the world champions.
It is pretty amazing that a victory tour to celebrate their victory in the World Cup, at which they campaigned against playing on artificial turf, the victory tour organised by US Soccer has them play on artificial turf. This seems ridiculous. This seems extraordinarily ill thought out. US Soccer are the ones with egg all over their faces, Rogers. It was the US women and their coaches who cancelled this game. And certainly Megan Rapinoe, get well soon. Oh, another round of indictments in the US Justice Department's FIFA corruption investigation. I read some of the indictment, Rog. I got caught in a wormhole there. Last Thursday, 16 new suspects were charged as law enforcement descended upon the very same luxury Swiss hotel where FIFA arrests were made back in May.
The 5-star Bar Ulak. Why do they keep staying at that hotel? Don't they know it's a trap?
Oh, we must stop staying there. How do we keep on making the same mistake? And our hero, US Attorney General Loretta Lynch, says, as always, we anticipate additional charges.
Oh, so that Bar Ulak hotel, one of the guys was arrested by police coming off a cruise ship, causing our friend Jason Gay to say that every FIFA arrest is like a mini Wes Anderson movie. I'm very proud to live in CONCACAF, where 7 of our officials were arrested, lead amongst them, including our acting president, Alfredo Hawit of the Honduras. He's the 3rd CONCACAF head to be arrested. I've got to say, being the president of CONCACAF, it's like being the drummer in Spinal Tap. Sunil Gulati, we applaud you. You're either going to be an extremely nervous gent or you're going to be the last man standing. One or the other.
One of the two, Rog. Okay, on to our Ravens. Our first Raven is from Laura Brownlee. My husband and I are in desperate need of your specific expertise. What's that? He and I are both massive football fans and can find common ground for the most part. While I'm a Spurs supporter and he has followed Manchester United since the days when he idolised Eric Cantona, we are both currently enjoying the machinations of the Teutonic Care Bear. Having said that, we are currently embroiled in somewhat of a disagreement. He's a proud expat Glaswegian, a Celtic supporter, if you must know, and I am an American. Our first child, a boy, is due next Tuesday. While we both have no doubt that the punishment he has been dealing to my ribcage over the past 9 months is indicative of a rare footballing talent, we have a profound disagreement as to what nation he should represent when it comes time to play internationally. He would be eligible to play for the United States, Scotland, or England. We agree England is completely out, but disagree about the other options. I'm a pragmatist. If he doesn't get a game for the US, as we will be 2022 World Cup winners, he should play for Scotland. My husband disagrees and says that is unpatriotic. Please, Rog and Davo, help us settle this terrible quandary in which we find ourselves.
What a fantastic question.
Yeah, okay, Rog, you go first.
I love Scottish football.
Yeah.
Something noble and valorous and defeated about it all.
Defeated, you said, or undefeated? Defeated.
I wish my kids could play for Scotland, but they don't qualify. Mine could actually play. How many could yours? Mine could play for England, for Israel, or the United States. So I've thought about this question. We've actually talked it through as a family. I've talked it through with my different kids. How many teams could yours play for?
They could play for England. They could play for Scotland. They could play for Sweden. They could play for the United States. And probably, with the surname Davis, they could probably play for Wales. They could find a reason. Yeah.
So, I mean, I can tell you how we've handled it.
Yeah.
We've gone through as a family and we've prioritised the order, if they are good enough. So we came up with US first, and then that was it. The others didn't make the list. I suggest you do the same, Laura. Though if America, I believe if America don't want your son, if he's going to be not wanted, I've got to say going to Scotland is not unpatriotic. It'd be glorious. But to up the odds of him playing for the United States, and God knows we need him, give him a J name. Jurgen loves J names.
Oh, he loves a J name.
Jermaine, Josie, or Julian. Baby Josie. Actually, Jurgen Brownlee, David. That's a beauty. It rolls right off the tongue. Come on, Jurgen!
Yeah, it's a very, very good name. I think the key here is that this is your first child.
Good, Josie.
I can say that as a parent of 4 children. Maybe you have
Baby
more.
Josie.
You may have way more control over your children than I have over my children, but my children all culturally identify in a different way. I have 2 children who culturally identify as English, 1 child who culturally identifies as American, and 1 who culturally identifies as Swedish. Meaning, that's the blood they feel, those are the nations that they cheer for, that's who they support. That had no influence from me, other than being their parent to go and do it. They made the choice themselves. Children tend to make their own choices. I think it's quite rare that people make their national team choices later as adults to go and do it and say, oh yeah, it was my mum and dad who persuaded me what to go and do.
I honestly think, that's what I would do. If my child wanted to play for Sweden,
Yeah.
I would take them down to Fort Sumter. I believe it is impossible as a kid to not see that flag
Yeah.
that the North flew when the first shots were fired in the Civil War and not want to play for America.
I think the Civil War.
I bet you Fabian Johnson's been down to Fort Sumter and he thought, yeah, it's got to be America.
I think the Civil War is complicated, Rog. The Revolutionary War, I'll have you go to Boston Harbor, and it makes you feel a bit more patriotic. I think the Civil War is complex. But my only point is that children often make their own decisions, whatever it is that as parents you want to go and make them do.
We had the conversation about which national team they'll play for after a visit to Fort Sumter.
Yeah.
All of them signed on to play for Jurgen. Our phone is not yet rung.
Yeah, it's weird. Okay, the winner of the coveted Guinness Men in Blazers poet, philosopher, soccer scribe, Raven of the Week is Patrick Maloney. Yesterday, my beloved Portland Timbers won the MLS Cup. Congratulations. I've been a fan of theirs for 38 of their 40 years of existence, having arrived in Portland as a young man in 77, 1 month after my other team, the Portland Trail Blazers, won its one and only NBA championship. Of course, they played in the NASL. Until yesterday, my fandom has been defined by disappointment, by losing, by teams from other larger, more important cities unfairly taking that which should rightfully be ours.
Oh, me like it.
I have never regretted my fandom for either team. Life is about struggle, about understanding the injustice that is inherent in the world. I wonder how this got on the pod, this Raven. And accepting that summer is 5 weeks long. Anything more than that is a gift. And every few years it rains straight through August, so better luck next year. I felt a certain moral superiority my whole life, sounds familiar, to people who root for teams that actually win. Like there is a truth to existence that I understand and they don't. So yesterday the Timbers won, and everyone expects me to be happy. And it's not that I'm not. It's that the emotions I experienced when we lost were so much more profound than this muted contentment, this temporary absence of pain that I feel now that we have won. I feel like you are the only person I can talk to about this. It's Rog, not me. And my question is this. Is there a single book that I could give my friends and family that would help them understand what I'm feeling? I've combed through the works of Mr. Philip Larkin, but I get the feeling his team never actually won. Don't forget to be awesome, Patrick Maloney.
Larkin's team.
Yeah.
Oh,
Would have been
Patrick.
Coventry.
I empathise. I do empathise. I mean, David, you asked me last week what I believe Everton can achieve this season. I've thought about it all week. I want to tell you the following.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Spurs' young core and feel only optimism.
Mm-hmm.
I see what Crystal Palace are building, and I think young, bold, future.
Future.
For Everton, I see John Stones, I see Ross Barkley, Dale Lefeo, Coleman and Romelu.
Cleverly.
And I see only a darkness. I spent all week wondering why, Dave, why? Why is that? I can see joy for other people, but only doom for myself. And I realise that decades of being an Evertonian have conditioned me to just abject negativity. I will not attempt to kick the football Lucy from Peanuts is holding out for me. I won't do it. I've been disappointed so many times, Davo. Wembley visits that have ended in just gutting defeat. Players who I've adored and have then left me. Shock losses at key moments. And I've just built up layers of defensive self-doubt and pessimism. I live my footballing fandom, as Franz Kafka said, we go about life in a mood. Look at the smile on your face. A mood of helpless darkness.
Because
David.
some of this is true. There is a version of this is true. There is part of a Rog for whom this is true. But I also notice a change. A change.
The changes?
In a Rog
Are
that
they
is
upon
going
me?
through the change. And the change in Rog, you said something to me last week after Bournemouth came back and got that point. Is you came in and you looked at the table when we flashed it up on the screen. You said something. I've been podding with you since since 1973.
Since
And
Faraday.
I've never heard you say this before, is you looked at the table and you said, that was a precious 2 points dropped. And it was a different Rog. It was a Rog dreaming, thinking about his Everton getting, and not just the top four, because I can just see this thing. You support a team, and make no doubt about it, you support a team capable this season of winning the Premier League, Rog. They are capable. They have the talent. They have the manager. They have the skill to win the Premier League this season. And it might not be Rog, but I'm telling you, other Rog has gone through the change.
Let's just say, David, let's play with your dystopian future that you're painting.
That's not dystopian, Rog. That is hope. It's the opposite of dystopian.
No,
it's something wonderful. Winning is an amazing feeling. Winning things. You know, the point of football is not struggle. It is about all sport is about winning. It's why they give trophies.
Even you explaining this seems as foreign to me as District 9, like watching the beginning of a future world in which just the world is so similar.
Won
but
the elite league in English football before.
I wouldn't know how to handle winning.
You did
like
so
Patrick.
as a child.
There's lots of things I did as a child. I used to piss in swimming pools all the time.
You did?
Yeah, it was
We
always
used to
me.
ring a bell to get your diaper
Always,
changed
I
as
did.
well, which I love. That's my favourite thing ever.
My grandma, she gave me a cowbell to sit on the potty and ring it, and I just kept ringing
In
it.
some ways, I am your grandma,
Till I was
and you
about
still
9.
have a
Till I
sort
was
of
about 9. She never told me
kind
to
of
stop ringing it. I just kept doing it. It was totally natural.
I love
But
it.
I wouldn't know how to handle it. It would shake me to my core, Dave, if Everton did win. Just as it sounds like Patrick is shaken to his core, not just as a football fan, but really in terms of how I approach life, Davo. Mm-hmm. But my advice to you, Patrick, would be don't read a book. Just believe in the community you're building in Portland. Don't think. Just throw yourself into the madness of Portland's victory with abandon. I mean, as a GFOP at PDX Webster tweeted us, Portland wins MLS Cup. Let's set smart cars and food trucks on fire. I say go for it, mate. Go for it.
Fantastic stuff, Rog. Okay, your weekend looks like this, courtesy of Mini USA. Bournemouth becoming a staple on network
All-conquering
NBC.
Bournemouth.
Rog, they host Man United 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. Great game.
On NBC proper again.
NBC proper.
I love
Spurs versus Newcastle at 11 a.m. Sunday on NBC Sports Network, and not technically the weekend, but Monday at 3 p.m. League leaders Leicester host defending champs Chelsea on NBCSN. I can almost hear Arlo White's excited opening to that game.
Lifelong Bournemouth fan Nick Kroll. Maybe I'll go and watch that game.
Yeah, lifelong Bournemouth fan. There are many ways to connect to us. One is through our Amazon Emporium, which helps keep the show going. Anytime you go on Amazon for items big or small, just click off the Emporium page. Men in Blazers gets a tiny percentage that allows us to cover the cost of creating the show. What are you putting in the Emporium this week, Rog?
Oh, it's Hanukkah Day, mate.
Oh.
So I'm going to throw in my Hanukkah present for my wife.
Okay, go.
It's a book.
No.
It's rather 3 volumes in a box set.
Oh.
It's the complete works of Primo Levi.
Well, she did well this year.
Maybe what you need, Patrick. The great Italian chemist.
Yeah.
Second World War partisan. Turned Auschwitz survivor.
Yeah.
And then he became a writer, poet, memoirist. And this exquisite collection is 2,910 pages of magic published by Liverite Publishing.
Yeah.
It's his entire output, much of which was not previously available in English. And I just treasure Primo Levi's desire to make meaning, his sense of human dignity. I named my 4th child after this gent.
Yeah.
And to have the 3 volume set in my bookshelf hovering above our dinner table with his face on the side of it, looking down upon us all, it's just a constant reminder of the need to be an individual who fights for what you believe in.
I'm putting a book in the Emporium, Rog. It's a cookbook. The title of this book has actually changed the way that I cook, Rog. It has a title that has really changed the way I cook. It's written by Mark Murphy, a fantastic restaurateur. It's got Landmark here. It's a great restaurant here just outside the crap part of Soho. The book is called Season with Authority, Confident Home Cooking by Mark Murphy. Formerly, I'm not ashamed to admit it, as a cook, I would season delicately. I'd put the salt, put the pepper, put the herbs on, a little bit delicate.
I've never understood paprika.
But you don't have to understand it, Rog. You just have to season with it with authority. Go in with the salt, go in with the pepper, grind, get those forearms moving, and just get that seasoning on your food. It changes the way that you cook, changes the way you can enjoy your meal. Season with Authority by Mark Murphy. A bargain on Amazon. You can get in hardcover or soft cover. You can get a Kindle edition, Rog.
Is it more than one page?
Yes, it is. There's a recipe.
Does he not just
There are
be like,
lots of-
chuck it in?
Well,
It's
by the way-
recipes, or it was just like,
By the way, you could check.
seasoning.
Here's an amazing thing. Very few books you can say this about. It will change your life as a cook just looking at the front cover. Just looking at the picture on Amazon. Just go to the page, look at the front cover. That will change it. Just buying into the whole philosophy of Season with Authority. But then there are recipes in the whole book on how to season with authority. Things to cook seasoning with authority. His pan perdu. Rog, I'm sure Olivier Giroud and Arsene Wenger would enjoy
His
Mark
moots.
Murphy's
His moots.
his mots.
It's not.
Pan perdu. The pan perdu. I suddenly realised, does motivation come from the French word for word? Mote. It's
Mots.
very interesting.
What's that green thing you put on soup?
Basil.
There's
Parsley.
another one. Cilantro.
Cilantro.
How do you feel about cilantro?
What's that green thing you put on soap? As though that is the sole purpose of cilantro.
What is the purpose? I've never understood.
It's seasoning. Yeah, my guess is when you've had your soup seasoned with cilantro, it's not been done with enough authority.
Can I just tell you one quick
Yeah.
thing? How much cilantro do you think actually goes into the human system, and how many times is cilantro lifted off and put on the tablecloth?
Not enough.
I think a lot of cilantros are under-respected.
These herbs are incredible for you. You should eat them. They're very, very good. Okay, Rog, other ways to connect with us. You can now watch entire episodes of our crap TV show on
it's
NBC
awful.
Sports Live Extra, Apple TV and Roku. It's also up on our website, meninblazers.com, and also on meninblazers.com, a place to sign up for our newsletter, The Raven, which we produce with our partner
we
Guinness.
may have
Check out-
someone from Fargo coming on next week.
Oh, can't wait. Check out our Spotify account, men_in_blazers, meninblazers.wikispaces.com/ a wonder of the modern world. Follow us on Twitter at Embassy Davies, at Rog Bennett, at Men in Blazers, on Instagram at Men in Blazers, at Embassy_Davies. We've also got a Facebook. We've got a subreddit, meninblazers.reddit.com, maintained by GFOPs Akshay, Calvin, and Alex.
Alex.
You can always send your ravens to the crap part of Soho. You can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com. Venderpunk Rog.
War pig.
Who wants to sex Matumbo?
Explosion.
Courage.
Take that, Gloria.
Is that your analysis?
Could